Well, hello and welcome to another presentation in the Preferred Systems series of COVID-19 webinars. Just a reminder that this series is presented by Preferred System and is funded through a grant from the Erie County's CARES Act for behavioral health and substance use services. So we're certainly grateful to them for providing the funding for these webinars. I hope you've been enjoying them so far. Today, what we're going to talk about is the importance of developing a daily routine during a pandemic. So, of course, the first question is, why do we even need a routine? What's the purpose of a routine? Why do we even need it? Well, number one, a good routine, a good schedule creates structure. We know what to expect. There's too many things going on in our world. There's too much uncertainty. There's too much upheaval to try and keep everything straight without having a good daily schedule to keep us on track and keep us focused on exactly what it is we need to get done, when we have to get done, and what time frame we need to get those things accomplished. The second thing it does is it provides a sense of accomplishment or success. When we have a daily schedule, we know exactly what we need to get done, and we know whether we've gotten it done or whether we've let it slide for one reason or another. Excuse me. You know, it's not always possible to get everything done. Life happens, things change, and you have to adapt. But we need to be able to know exactly what's happening and what we need to get done, and then we can prioritize, and that's very important in these times. And another thing that a good daily schedule, a good routine does is it gives us a sense of accomplishment. It gives us a means of measuring. What did we get done today? So at the end of the day, you can look back and you can say, yeah, I accomplished all the important things I needed to get done. Or, you know what, I didn't really get the things done today that I needed to get done. I need to reevaluate what disrupted my schedule. Sometimes it's within our control, sometimes it's not. And so we have to be able to adapt to that. And kind of go with the flow and look at it and say, okay, why did I not follow through the way I wanted to? And how can I do a better job moving forward on that? So there's some certain things you can do to make sure that your schedule is successful, that you stick to it, and that you follow through. One of the things you really need, why a schedule is successful and why you need to do it, is consistency. And boy, in these times of a pandemic, consistency is something we all need. We need to know that things are going to happen, and they need to happen on a regular and consistent basis. You know, there's too many unknowns. There's too many things changing right now, from work schedules to kids' schooling to, you know, are extracurricular activities going to happen? Are they not going to happen? Can I go? Can I not go? You know, so much of life right now is inconsistent that a daily schedule really helps to give us a sense of, you know, are we getting the things done that we need to get done? So consistency is very important. Another thing we need right now is predictability. Boy, in these times of COVID-19, predictability is something that's really, really important. So much is unpredictable, so much is unknown. You know, we can have a good daily schedule or a good plan for what's going to happen in the next week or month, but what if you get sick? Or what if somebody in your family gets sick? You know, that throws everything out the window. Workplaces, you know, are we going to be able to go into work, or is our workplace going to shut down? You know, or are we going to, you know, even in our own towns, you know, we've been lucky lately that things are getting better right now, but with the flu season coming on and COVID-19 still around, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So predictability is really important, and a daily schedule, a daily routine is very important for making sure that those kinds of things happen. Another thing a daily schedule and daily routine is really good for is making sure that we follow through. And part of that is giving ourselves some rewards and some consequences. You know, even as adults, we need rewards and consequences. It's the old operant conditioning that we learned about with B.F. Skinner. We work better when we have follow through for ourselves. It's also important if we have kids to set that in place for them as well, that when things happen that there's a reward. You know, you do your work, at the end of the day you get a reward, whether that's, you know, relaxing, whether it's reading a good book, whether it's you treat yourself to a, you know, a favorite meal or something like that. But you need to have, you know, good rewards and consequence systems. Same way, if you get to the end of the day and you haven't done things, you know, what's a consequence you're going to put on yourself? Okay, I'm going to get up earlier tomorrow, or I'm going to, you know, double down on this and make sure that I get this work done because it's really important. So predictability, follow through, consistency, they're all very, very important in order to have a good structure and a good routine. The last thing I think is important for success is making sure that you have a good daily planner. And there's a number of ways that you can do that. I'm just going to show you a few here. Okay, one thing you can do if you have an iPhone or an Android, a smartphone, is you can go to your app store and look up daily planner apps. A daily planner is a good way to write down exactly what you plan on doing each day. But if you don't have that, you can also, there's a lot of, you can go to a bookstore and you can buy a daily planner. And that's really good and that's really helpful. Or you can even go online, and that's what I want to show you here is you can even go online and you can find free daily planners that you could download and you could begin to use that are really helpful. So it's important to have a really good daily planner to kind of help structure your day. What times are you going to do things? The other thing that's helpful too, that I wanted to point out if you're not doing this already, is to use your smartphone. Use your phone to set times. Well, first of all, the other thing that's good is if you have Outlook or any kind of calendar program, to use that as well, whether it's on your computer, whether it's on your phone. Use a calendar system so that you have it right at your fingertips. And a lot of those can be set up to give you reminders ahead of time. I know I use Outlook a lot. And one of the things Outlook can do is you can set it up to give you a reminder however far in advance you want it. Mine's actually set up to give me, on certain things, 15-minute ahead of time reminders. So when I get a little notice on my phone, I know that in 15 minutes this next event is coming up, and I can mentally get ready for it, or I can stop doing what I'm doing and prepare for the next event or activity that I wanted to remind myself of. The other thing that I do that I'll throw out to you is I use my phone to set a timer to notify me of certain things. So as you see on the screen here, both Androids and iPhones, the clock system in them has a way for you to set up a timer ahead of time. Let me just show you. Here's an example of the iPhone. And if you see at the bottom here, it has different icons of the ways that you can use the clock. This one is the alarm. That's one I'll show you here in a second. The other thing you can do is set a timer. So if you have an event coming up or an activity coming up that you want to remember and remind yourself, you can set that. So let me talk about these a little bit. So the alarm is a good one. If you have a set meeting time or something important that day that you want to make sure that you remember ahead of time, you can set your alarm to go off to let you know what's coming. So you can set it up to, you know, the time of day that the event is going to be. You can set it up if the same event happens on the same day every week, you can set it up to remind you every Monday at, you know, 9 o'clock, I have a staff meeting, and set it up so that the alarm will remind you. And you may want, if you have a 9 o'clock staff meeting, you may want to set the alarm to go off at 8:30 to remind you, hey, don't forget you have a staff meeting in half an hour. You can set up alarms for it. You can have it vibrate. You can have a bell go off, whatever is helpful to you. The alarm is really good at working that way. Excuse me. Android phones have the same thing. You can also set up an alarm in an Android phone. So no matter what kind of phone, smartphone you have the ability to set up an alarm. The other thing you may want to do is you may want to set up a timer. So I just want to know, like, okay, I got to finish this, but I have a meeting in an hour. So you set up a timer to notify you in 50 minutes that it's almost time for your meeting. So it's similar to the alarm, but it's just another uh, device you can use on your phone to help remind you that you have an important event coming up that you want to stay on top of. So those are all just different ways that you can use excuse me. Let me just get back to screen sharing here. Okay. So the next thing we want to talk about is the benefits of structure of routine. And so we want to look at why are we even talking about this? These series are on how to prepare, how to survive COVID-19 in a stress-free and drug and alcohol-free environment. So why are we talking about daily schedules? Well, the first thing is a good daily schedule helps release stress. As I've talked about multiple times here, these are very stressful times anyhow. And having a routine, having the predictability and the consistency of a daily schedule helps to lower the stress that we're already feeling anyhow. So it's important for stress. Second thing that a good daily schedule, good daily routine does is it helps you to have better physical health. Your body is in a set routine, it knows what to expect, and it responds better. And so people that have good routines, generally speaking, statistics show they have better physical health. Third thing is that it helps you get better sleep. As your body is used to a routine, it knows what to expect. It knows, we're working on that consistency, the predictability, the follow through. You sleep better at night because your body is ready for it, knows now it's time to go to sleep. If our daily schedules are helter skelter and we're changing our wake times, we're changing our sleep times, our bodies never know when it's time to sleep, when it's time to watch TV, and it makes it much more difficult to actually fall asleep and get a good night's sleep. So a good schedule helps with sleep. Another thing a good schedule does is it helps you to focus better. That when you have a schedule written down and a good routine that you follow regularly, you're able to focus on what it is that you need to get done on any particular given day. So when you have it down and you're using those calendars and things we talked about, you can focus in on it and so you're not missing important events, you're not missing important deadlines, your tasks are getting done, and it's very, very helpful in that regard. So it definitely helps us to have better focus. So let's talk about our day. I have a little clock here to kind of imagine what time a lot of people get up. So we're looking at around a 6:25, 6:30 start. The important thing is wake up consistently. Set a time that you get up each and every day. You want to be regular. Our bodies are such that we need consistency, that we wake up and start our day at the same time every day. That it's much more helpful, much more beneficial to your physical health and your consistency to get up at the same time every day. Another thing you want to try and do as much as possible, and again, a lot of this is based on personality, but start the day off positively. Start off with a good attitude. Wake up and start the day fresh. For some people, that means getting up and working out. Exercise is so important to good physical health and mental health. But part of that is it depends on what works for you. So for some people, they like to start the day, get up and start by working out. For other people, that's more beneficial to do after work or later in the day. You have to do what's right for you. Another way people like to start the day off on a positive note is they like to start off with prayer time. Prayer time, meditation, reading, anything like that helps you slowly move into the day. So meditation is a second area. Let me put the rest of these up. So meditation is a good way for you, whether it's just sitting and thinking, whether it's actually doing some sort of mantra, some yoga maybe, whatever works for you is what's important to help you get started in a good and positive way. For some people, it's just getting a cup of coffee and sitting down and just kind of thinking through their day of what's coming up and mentally preparing for what's ahead. The other thing some people like to do is they like to get up and just sit down and scroll through their phone or their computer to catch up on the news from what's happening that day or what's expected to happen during the day. If that helps you start the day on a positive note, then wow, that's a great way to get started. That's a good thing to do. And then another important thing to do to start your day is to start the day with a shower, cleaning up, dress for work, dress for the day that's ahead. You know, I know the joke is that when we all start going back to the office, as we start going back to the office, we all have to start wearing pants again. Well, really, to have a good schedule, you should dress for work if you're going to be doing work. Now, not necessarily the same way. You know, you don't have to be as dressed up as you would going to work, but it helps you to focus on work if you dress accordingly for work. You know, but you need to do what works for you. You know, so if you can get away with stretchy pants or sweatpants and a ratty old sweatshirt and you still are productive, then good for you. But what I'm saying is for some people or for a number of people, it helps them to get into work mind by getting dressed in some sort of work clothes. I think you can see from the picture what I'm going to say next. It's very important to eat something in the morning. Breakfast, many people would argue that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. People that eat breakfast are healthier, they're more productive, they're more active, and they're happier overall. You need fuel to start your engines, get your engines running. So eat something. I mean, obviously, most of us can't have a breakfast like I have in the picture here, where we start the day with pancakes and bacon and eggs and, you know, chocolate covered strawberries. But something, anything, a piece of fruit, a piece of toast, a bagel, you know, whatever it is, a bowl of cereal. I think one of the things that's the nutritionists are worried about is so many people skip breakfast. And it's at a physical cost to your body to do so. You need to eat something to get your body and your mind working so early in the morning. And one of the last things you want to do for your morning routine is just take a minute or two to review your day. What is it that's coming up? Think about it. Before you plow into your day and just get started, take a minute to review your calendar, look at what's coming up, and prepare yourself mentally for what's about to happen. So now we're into the workday routine. What happens with the workday? One of the things that's important is to set up a designated space. Somewhere in if you're working remotely, I'm assuming right now that a number of people, and including kids, many of us are either still working remotely or we're working some sort of hybrid system where sometimes we go into the office, sometimes we're working at home. So let's talk a little bit about working from home. Excuse me. So one of the things you really need is you need a place with good lighting, somewhere where it's not dark and damp and depressing. Another thing you need though is minimal distractions. You don't want to be working somewhere where, you know, there's a lot of activity going on around you, or it's noisy, or, you know, the visuals out your window or wherever are distracting. You try not to work at the dining room table where, you know, a lot of things are going on around you. Find a place as much as you can with minimal distractions. You want it to be appealing. You want it to be a place somewhere in your house where you're able to work that is at least appealing to you on a physical and visual basis. These things are also very true and very important for kids that are schooling remotely, even if it, again, excuse me, even if it's a hybrid system where sometimes they go to school, sometimes they're working from home, doing schooling from home. These things all apply to them as well. Somewhere where there's good lighting, somewhere where there's minimal distractions, where they have, it's physically appealing and those kinds of things, and avoiding disturbances. How do we keep people from walking by? How do we keep it from, when a truck goes by or a train goes by or whatever, that it knocks us off our focus. Another thing we want to do for a good morning routine is you got to set break times. When is it you're going to take a break? However that works for you. You may want to set it by time. I'm going to work for an hour or an hour and a half, and then I'm going to take a 5-10 minute break. You may want to do it by project. Okay, I got to write this report. I'm going to write this report. Whenever I get this report done, then I'm going to move into the next, I'm going to take a little break and then move into the next project. So, you have to decide what works for you. So some suggestions for how to organize your work. One is to make lists. First of all, I really suggest using some sort of daily planner. But either with the planner or in addition to the planner or in lieu of the planner, make lists. Have a list of what it is you want to get done that day. What is most important? What are the have-to-dos that you absolutely have to get this done today? What are some of the would like to do's? And what are the sort of wish list, dream list kinds of things you'd like to get done? So make lists. Focus on what's important. What do you have to get done today? What is something that really, or you have to get started on? Like I have a big report coming up or a big meeting coming up in another week. I've got to get started on these reports so that I have them ready for that deadline. Another thing that planners, professional planners often tell people is try to focus and do the most difficult assignments in the morning, because that's when you're freshest. Work on the things that are difficult. Get the difficult things out of the way before, the afternoon comes in, you start getting tired, you start getting distracted, those kinds of things. So do that. Make sure you do that first. Another thing that I'd like you to think about is, can you yourself personally, are you successful at multitasking? Because most research shows that most people are not very good at multitasking. We say it. We all talk about it like, oh, I'm multitasking. I can do a lot of things. I can do this webinar. Well, I'm doing this webinar. I can check my email, and I can, blah, 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 blah. What most researchers have shown is most people who say they multitask are actually very much less efficient. You're better off to focus on one thing and one thing alone. So that's where the lists and the schedule and the routine come in. It helps you to really narrowly focus in and do a good job on one thing at a time, and do it well and do it right. Okay, moving along in our moving along in our work day. Another very important thing is to make sure you take a lunch break. It doesn't have to be super long. It doesn't have to be a 1-hour break, but take a lunch break. Again, you don't even have to eat necessarily. I mean, you can. It's good. It keeps, again, food is nutrition. Food is fuel for your body. So eating something, small sandwich, a nice meal, whatever, but eat to keep your body fueled. Some people like to exercise during the lunchtime. That's another thing you may want to put in your schedule. How are you, where does exercise fit into your day? That's something that's unique to each person and something to think about. But if time permits, exercise. Even if you just go for a walk, it doesn't have to be a rigorous workout. Maybe you just have a little bit of something to eat and you go for a little walk. But it's a great way to break up your day and give you more mental energy for the second part of your day. Give yourself a specific time limit. How long each day? Again, we're going for that consistency factor, that each day you look at, that you have 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is you do. What is it? How long is your lunch period going to be? How long is your lunch break going to be? And stick to that so that you get back to work at a reasonable time, that when you're going to get back to work, that you're focused, okay, it's time to get back to work, let's go. And you plow right in. If you don't have a schedule, number one, you may not take a lunchtime at all, which is not healthy, and which a lot of people do. But number two, you may take a lunch break and it's really hard for you to get back to work. So you want to balance those two things. And that's where having a good set schedule, a good routine helps with that. Excuse me. You also want to watch out for, when we're talking about the workday routine, you want to watch out for the workplace pitfalls of either overworking or procrastination. Kind of goes with what I just said, with the importance of a routine is if you don't have a good schedule and it's not written down and you're not holding yourself to it, you may just work yourself to the bones. Some people feel really guilty working at home. They so appreciate the opportunity to not have to go into the office that, boy, they're going to show the world that they're that they're not just loafing. And then so they work and work and work and never take a break. The other side of it is people who really find that without the structure of a workplace, without the structure of the boss walking by or coworkers looking in on you or whatever, that you take more breaks to watch a little bit of TV and then it turns into a whole half-hour show or it turns into an hour show, or you find yourself getting caught up in household tasks. So you're doing laundry when you should be working, or you're cleaning the kitchen. You start to work and you look over and you see the kitchen's dirty, so you get up and go clean the kitchen. The two pitfalls you really want to watch out for are either overworking, and you need to stop, you need to have some downtime, some family time, those kind of things, or procrastinating. Other things to watch out for and be aware of where people run into trouble: technology issues. One of the things that allows us to work remotely, one of the things that allows me to do this webinar is technology. But when it doesn't work, boy, you just want to pull your hair out. It's so frustrating. So make sure that you have some familiarity yourself with technology, but also make sure that you have somebody that you can turn to for support, whether it's someone in your family, could be one of your kids, could be a coworker that you can call up. But in order for working from home to work successfully, you've got to have good technology and you've got to have a way to problem solve when it doesn't work right. Another pitfall of working from home that you have to be aware of during the day, and we have to figure out how to counteract, is loneliness. For a lot of people, it's kind of lonely to work from home. It's great. It's quiet. It's wonderful. Blah blah. But it's also, we miss the interactions, the daily interactions with our coworkers. We miss seeing people, and so that's something you want to be aware of and figure out how do you work around that. Kind of along the same lines of not being in the office is the lack of teamwork. There's really a concern that by not being in the office and not having the coworkers to bounce ideas off of, there's the potential for a loss of creativity or the synergy that comes from sitting around and just throwing ideas at each other. And so we have to find ways to work around that. Certainly Zoom meetings are one way of doing that, but a lot of people are getting tired of Zoom meetings, which takes me to the next point. One of the issues with Zoom meetings or any of these technology meetings that people are finding is they're more stressful than a regular meeting. Because one of the things that happens is in a regular meeting, if I need to scratch my nose or whatever, I can look around the room and see who's looking at me. When I'm on a Zoom meeting, boy, it's like, the Brady Bunch panels. And when I scratch my nose, everybody in the meeting maybe see me doing that. And especially if people have it on where whoever moves, if they have it on speaker panel or whatever, if you move, your face may come up primarily on someone's screen. So instead of seeing the speaker's face, you all of a sudden jump to the front of the screen. But there's just a pressure of, you always have to be on. You're always quote unquote on. You're always in view of people. Whereas in a meeting in the room, who's looking at you. And most of the time, most people aren't looking at you. So that's a source of stress. It's also the stress of, will the technology work? Will my sound work? When do I cut in? When do I not? If I start to speak and somebody else speaks, we're talking over each other, and that gets frustrating. So there's just a lot of stress for people on video meetings. Another question to consider, or a thought to consider, is um, can you take your work outside somewhere? Can you go to a different spot? You're already working remotely out of your home, but can you possibly go outside and work? Can you sit under a tree? Can you go to, you know, the peninsula or Presque Isle, or a local lake or somewhere, and still do your work? Is there a way that you can take this and take your schedule and your routine, but do it in an area that's more appealing? It goes back to the appealing factor I talked about before. If you can do that, by all means do that. Make the job as enjoyable as you can while still staying very focused and structured and organized on what you're getting done. Okay, so now we've been through the workday, and we get to the point where now we're getting to the dinner time, the after work dinner time. And so the first thought is, after the end of the day, how do you unwind? What do you do? One of the things people have found is, in working remotely, is they love the idea that they don't have the daily commute. They love not having to get up and go in. They actually have some extra time for a cup of coffee, or they get to sleep in a little bit later. The downside of that, though, is you also lose that little bit of time to decompress at the end of the day. On the way into work, you get a chance to get yourself mentally prepared for what's coming up and get ready for that. On the other side of it, coming home from work, you get a chance to, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on how far from the office you live, you get a little bit of chance to sort of unwind, listen to music, listen to news, whatever it is you do in the car, drive in silence, a chance to get ready. So the loss of the commute can either be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. I like the commercial. I love the commercial of the lady who's working from home, but she actually commutes to work. So they show her like getting in a bus, and she's taking the ferry and whatever, and she comes back in, and her husband says something to her about, do you really still commute since you've been working from home? The idea being that some people still like and need that commute time, even if they're working from home. So, think about how do you get yourself ready for the day so that you're not up, running around doing housework and then trying to rush right into the workday. You have to move yourself gradually into that, and that needs to be structured and planned so that your body and your mind is ready for that. One of the other things you want to watch at the end of the day, the way to unwind. I mean, again, these are prevention workshops we're doing for COVID-19. So one of the issues we really want to talk about is watch alcohol consumption. One of the biggest concerns that we have as providers in the field is the concern that people are overusing, because people are home so much and people are so stressed with COVID-19 and illness and changing schedules and disruptions and upheavals, that people are leaning too heavily on drugs and alcohol to calm themselves down. Please make sure you watch that. It's too easy to fall into that trap. And so we warn you to make sure that you either work on your sobriety and maintain your sobriety, or if you're someone who does partake, that you do it in moderation and at an appropriate level. Okay, so you had a chance to unwind a little bit after dinner, and now we're moving towards getting ready to eat. Get creative. Make it fun. How can you, part of planning too could be meal planning. Have a schedule of who's going to cook. Does it always have to be one person in the family that does the cooking? Who's going to clean up? What we've been mostly talking about here is individual schedules for your day. How do you as an individual schedule your day? But the other thing you may want to work on is a family schedule. When are we doing family activities? And part of that is meal planning. Okay, what are we going to eat on these days of the week? That helps with shopping, so you can shop ahead of time to plan for the week. It helps with who's in charge of doing dishes that night. It doesn't always have to be mom or dad, or mom and dad, or a certain kid, you spread it around, make it a family activity, and everyone knows whose turn it is. So that's really important. But get creative with meals. What type of meals you're eating, where you're eating the meals, can you eat somewhere crazy? Can you eat in the living room? Can you eat in, I don't know, move around the house. Find a way, because, so much of the time we're stuck in the house, that we want routine, we want consistency, but we want creativity as well. By being consistent and being predictable, it also gives you a chance to be a little bit off the board once in a while as well. So keep that in mind too. Okay, so the evening routine, what are things we want to do there? Things to watch out for. One is you want to watch out, I keep stressing, or keep coming back to exercising, because we all know that exercise is so important. At whatever level you do it, whether it's a rigorous workout, whether it's a walk, taking the dog for a walk, if you have an elliptical or a bicycle or something, some sort of exercise is important. And you have to figure out what time of day is best for you. But one of the things you do want to watch is that you're not exercising too closely to bedtime, because when you exercise, you get all of your energy going, and your the chemicals in your body route up, and then you try to go to sleep and your body's like, so you definitely want to watch that. So definitely try to work out, figure out a time when it's good for you to work out, but try not to do it too closely to bedtime. Along the same lines, we all have housework we have to get done. There are just certain things that have to get done. Dishes have to get done, laundry has to get done, vacuuming, dusting, just keeping the house tidied up is all important, and things that have to get done. But try not to do that too close to bedtime either. You want to get a schedule and a routine where you're gradually working yourself towards bedtime. That's what helps. So many people, when they come in for counseling, talk about how much trouble they have sleeping, how much trouble they have getting ready for bed. And part of that is because we don't do a good job of getting our bodies ready for a relaxed state. In order to sleep well, we have to move our bodies into a relaxed state. And in order to do that, we need to gradually move into that. So we can't go from exercising and then try to sleep. We can't go from running around doing housework, lifting laundry baskets or washing dishes or whatever, and then all of a sudden expect our body to be able to go to sleep. You need to gradually work into that. And so that's what we want to work on as well. Boy, a big one that people have is excessive use of electronics. And we love our electronics. I love my electronics. I love technology. And a lot of us are on our computers or our phones all the time. Well, the research has shown that any kind of technology like that activates our brains, and activates what's going on in there. That's not conducive to moving into sleep. So watch how much you're using your electronics right before bed. Try to have some downtime. Try to go from from social media or TV watching or any of those kinds of things to a more calmer, more relaxed way of getting ready for bed. Another thing that is recommended you avoid, and sometimes this is hard, but try to stay away from arguments or upsetting discussions too close to bedtime. If you have something you need to talk to a family member about, do it earlier in the day, right after dinner, right before dinner, somewhere like that, rather than right before bed. Because how can you have an upsetting conversation and then expect to lay down and get into that relaxed state to go to sleep? So as much as you possibly can, you want to avoid those kind of discussions right before bedtime. And again, I have to come back to watch your alcohol consumption. You don't want to overly drink. You don't want to, rely too much on that. That what this is about is finding pro-social, positive ways of helping yourself getting into a relaxed state without relying on drugs or alcohol or anything like that to get you there. So the bedtime routine, what works for bedtime? Well, one of the things we know is it helps. It's very, very helpful and important to have a consistent bedtime. And a lot of people struggle with this. They, one day they're going to bed at 9 o'clock and another time they're going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. That one of the most important things for a daily routine and consistency is to have a regular time you go to bed and a regular time you get up. Now, how much time you need is really up to you as a person. The scientists and the doctors and the medical community recommend somewhere between 7 and 8 hours of sleep. Kids, of course, need much longer than that. But you have to know what works for you. A lot of people like to brag about, well, I only need 4 hours of sleep or 5 hours of sleep. And for some people, maybe they do. But most of us need pretty close to a good 7 hours of sleep, plus or minus. And so you have to figure out what works for you. And then accordingly, what does that mean as far as going to bed, getting up in the morning? And that's where the routine and the consistency comes in. What time, in order to get into your day, so if you start your work day at 9 o'clock in the morning and you have X number of things you have to get done in the morning. You have to get up if you want to exercise, if you want to read, if you have to, kids, you have to get out the door to school or get them set up to do the schooling. You have to kind of back from when you start your work day. And so that goes back to what time do you have to wake up? And then what time you wake up will then determine 7 hours before that is when you should go or would like to go to bed. So it's important. That's why structure is so important, why we're talking about this, that in this time, this crazy time of unpredictability and inconsistency and chaos, why a structure is so important. And so we want to start with, the anchors, the bookends of a good day is what time you go to bed, what time you get up, or vice versa. What time you get up, and so then what time you go to bed so that you can get up the same time the next day. Very, very important. Another thing that research and scientists recommend is you really should try not to fall asleep to the TV. The TV is emitting electrons and things into the air that stimulate our brain. Even if you close your eyes and you're not directly watching the TV, those signals are still coming out and still activating your brain. As much as possible, you really should try to learn to go to sleep without the TV on. Now, some people say they just can't, they need noise, whatever. Well, there's a couple different things you can try in that regard. You might want to try putting on soft music, music that helps to relax. Because again, remember, a good night's sleep is dependent on you getting into a relaxed state. So what kind of music, helps you to get there? Probably not rock and roll, but what kind? There's all kinds of things you can try in that regard. Another thing you might want to try is a sound machine, a machine that has different types of noises or background noises that could help you get into that relaxed state, whether it's, ocean waves coming in, birds chirping, soft, gentle breezes, the sound of soft, gentle breezes, anything along that line that can help you, that can give you, if you need some sort of noise or background noise to help you fall asleep, to do it in a way that's relaxing and enjoyable, that will help you to achieve that state. As I said before, you definitely want to try and have time between electronics and sleep. Your brain needs a chance to unwind. It needs a chance to slow down, and you need to prepare yourself. That's part of what a schedule is about, is getting yourself, we talked about predictability and consistency, getting your body, so your mind knows, oh, okay, we're moving into sleep time. It's time to start calming down. And you want to limit food intake as well. If you eat a lot of food before you go to bed, your stomach is too busy focusing on digesting that, and that's not helpful to moving into a relaxed state. So, I know a lot of people like to have a nighttime snack, which is fine. Just, again, it's about moderation and it's about timing. How close to when you go to sleep are you actually eating, and how much are you eating? So, avoid overeating too much or eating and then trying to go to sleep, because generally speaking, that doesn't work very well. So one of the things between electronics and eating or whatever else that we recommend is anything along the lines of how to quiet your body. For some people, that's prayer time. It's a time to do whatever kind of reflective or quiet prayer that they like to do. For some people, it's a meditation time, anything that helps them to calm the mind, calm the body, those kinds of things. For a lot of people, it's reading. It's a reading time. And again, it depends on, you want to be reading something that's helping you to relax. So, you probably don't want to be reading some kind of scary novel or something like that, unless you're able to do that. And the reading part of it helps you to relax. But the key that we're looking for here is any activity that helps you to move from the frenetic pace of the day to calm, relaxed body that can now go to sleep. So one of the big questions people have is, what do I do if my routine keeps getting interrupted? The first thing is, be kind to yourself. Yes, we make schedules to help focus our day, and routine is important, but life happens, and so disruptions will occur. So be kind to yourself when they happen. Don't overly stress like, oh my gosh, my whole routine is thrown off. Know that it's going to happen. Be ready for it. But the schedule will help you get back on track. That's the importance of having a good schedule. Don't give up. Just because your schedule's been disrupted, don't say, well, there goes my day. Like the whole thing's shot now. No, it's not. So you had a disruption, it knocked you off what you had planned to do, or you're not getting things done in the order you had hoped to do. That's fine. That's not a problem. What you want to do is get back on track. Don't give up. Another thing you have to do from time to time is you have to reevaluate the parts of your routine to see, is this working? Is this not working? If you scheduled in, okay, I'm going to get up every morning and I'm going to do my exercise and then I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And you find that when you get up in the morning, you just can't exercise. You just don't feel like exercising, or you try it and it's just not working for you. Okay, well then you at least tried it. So readapt your schedule. Maybe try exercising at lunchtime. Maybe move exercising to after work, before dinner sometime. Look at what's working for you. Maybe your lunchtime needs to be, instead of at noon, it needs to be at 11 or 11:30 because you're just too hungry, by the time that rolls around. Maybe you need to eat lunch more at like 1 or 2, do what works for you. Reevaluate what's happening. Maybe you find that you're so creative in the morning that stopping for lunch at noon is disrupting your creativity. Then don't do that. Reevaluate, look at how it's doing, how it's working for you. The other thing is, if you have kids and you're trying to help kids be successful with school, you may have to reevaluate how your work day is compared to how their school day is. That you're working at times that they're off, or that because they need your help. Or you may need to, start to work earlier so that you can spend more time with them in the afternoon when they're not doing school. The key is not what your schedule is, it's your willingness to stick to it, but also reevaluate it, be creative with it so that it works for you and for your family. Another thing that's really important that goes along this line is the ability and the willingness to be flexible in your thinking. Yes, we want to schedule. I mean, the important thing we're talking about in this whole workshop today, this whole webinar, is consistency, routine, setting up a schedule that helps you to be consistent. But you also want to be flexible. You want to be willing to say, okay, this isn't working exactly the way I wanted. Or on this particular day, I'm not going to do this thing that I normally do. I'm going to take the afternoon off, or I'm going to, stop and watch a particular news. Something's happening in the news. I want to turn on CNN or one of the other cable networks and watch what's happening, see the breaking news and watch it. And then I'll adjust my schedule afterwards. Be flexible. Be kind to yourself. Be flexible. And figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Another thing that's really important in all this is to find a friend, a family member, a colleague, somebody that can help you, number one, to look at your schedule and say, is this appropriate? Is this good? Is this helpful? But also to help keep you accountable, to help keep you on it and looking at it, working on it, and flexible, so that you have some help. Or if you struggle with it, that they can give you some ideas. Well, I think you're packing too much into the morning, or I think you just have too many things on that schedule that you're trying to get done. It's not feasible to do as many things in a day as what you're trying to pack into your schedule. So have someone you can bounce it off of and look at it and decide, how is this working? And, is this working for me? Is this working for you? And how that happens. So I hope this helps in terms of developing a daily routine, daily schedule. I hope you see the importance of it. I hope that that this helped give you some ideas and some tools. Certainly look at a daily planner, whether it's a physical one that you write in, whether it's an online one that you can, download to your computer and use that way, whether you use your phone, use Outlook, whatever, that you have a way of developing a schedule, and that you remember that a good routine, a good schedule helps you with stress. It helps you physical help, helps you to sleep better, and helps you to be a more accomplished person, to get your goals done, and works in a way that helps you. I would invite you to look at the other workshops coming up. There's some really good ones coming up in the future here in these preferred systems webinars that I think will also help you with your own self-development and your self-care skills. And so I thank you for joining me today, and take care and good luck.